at Linden Road, Flint.
It is a growing problem across the nation and here in mid-Michigan. Elder abuse.
And it takes on many forms: physical, psychological, sexual, and financial exploitation. The stories of the alleged abuses are really hard to believe.
ABC 12's Dawn Jones in the studio here with a closer look at how some seniors are living their golden years of their lives. Dawn?
Bill, Angie, across the nation, more than 2 million seniors are victims of some form of elder abuse. And this year alone, in Genesee County, a task force has received more than 4,000 referrals of alleged abuse. And some of those stories will break your heart. Take a good look at these pictures. Disturbing, aren't they? Trash-filled homes infested with bugs.
It was just horrible. I mean, I'd never seen nothing like that. It was nasty.
Is this a place you would allow your mother, your father, or your grandparent to live? Believe it or not, some are.
And how can another human being treat another person like that is beyond me. It is.
Senior citizens neglected, physically and sexually abused, some financially exploited.
Only 1 out of 5 cases are being reported.
Cases that are now coming to light here in mid-Michigan, thanks to a new task force. Social workers teamed with investigators from the Genesee County Sheriff's Department, the only task force like it in the nation. Their job? To investigate reported cases of elder abuse. And they're finding the cases are out there.
It's a monumental problem because in a 2-month period for January, February, we got 27 felony warrants, including a felony murder case.
For most, it's hard to imagine a son or a daughter abusing, neglecting, or stealing from their own parent. But in most of these cases, they are the accused.
It's caregivers. It's a spouse, it's a daughter, it's a son, a niece, a nephew.
Crimes against the elderly transcend all racial and socioeconomic barriers. Not only is it happening here in this inner city Flint neighborhood, but it's also happening here in this upscale Flint Township neighborhood where Catherine Mutkacy and Ruth Zetterberg lived just doors apart. Inside of this home is where 95-year-old Ruth Zetterberg, a former Flint socialite and community volunteer, was being cared for by her nephew. When investigators found her, she was living in filth, barely clinging to life.
We were told by a physician that she would have been dead in 5 days.
Mrs. Zetterberg survived and is now living in a nursing home. Unfortunately, the outcome was not the same for her neighbor, 74-year-old Catherine Mutkacy.
She was living in a death camp. She was approximately 5'4", and at the time of her death, she weighed 63 pounds.
Confined to a couch, authorities say Mrs. Mutkacy had not been bathed in a year. Her bathroom, a pizza box and a cup. Her once beautiful home filled with piles of garbage. Her primary caregiver, her son. He told authorities when they found her that his mom didn't want him to go for help. But Diane Nims, who heads up the task force, says that's no excuse.
When they get to the point of their body and their mind can no longer function competently, that's when you take over. And he did not take over as a son. He allowed her to live in that mess.
That son, Christopher Mutkacy, is now charged with murder, accused of neglecting his mother to death.
He wrapped her in a blanket that she had been in so long that when they removed it, they had to remove it like a cast because it was so hard. You can see from that picture, you can see her spine is embedded in it. And that's sad, to leave your mama like that on a couch.
Conditions much like the ones investigators from the task force recently uncovered in their latest case.
When you walked through the door, you had to literally cover your face or you was going to get sick. There was fleas that just like swarmed your body and you didn't have one white part on your body. That's how bad it was. The cockroaches just like swarmed all over the walls as soon as you went in.
That's how Amy Douglas describes the living conditions inside this house where she once lived alongside Anthony Conturso and his mother.
How could you put somebody in something like that? and actually expect them to live. You know, they're going to die in something like that. They're not going to live.
Conditions so bad, you can hear on this videotape the investigators gagging from the stench. Inside, Mrs. Conturso was found partially clothed, sitting on this urine-soaked sofa, infested with maggots. The home had no running water, no heat. Investigators say her son was charging her $450 a month to live like this. He is now behind bars, charged with second-degree vulnerable adult abuse.
He felt like it was her choice to live like that. Yeah. And it was not at all, you know. He was her caregiver. He was supposed to be there for her.
The sheriff says money and a sense of entitlement appear to be the overriding motive in many of these cases. And then there is caregiver frustration.
I don't know of a tougher job in the world than being a caregiver and caring for someone who has problems. It's just tough. But you can get help. You don't have to. When you get frustrated, you don't have to abuse them. You don't have to neglect them.
Sadly, when the elderly are abused and neglected, they are stripped of their dignity and oftentimes are too embarrassed or afraid to speak up.
I think the big thing is, the caregivers isolate their victims and they don't have access to make a complaint.
One reason why Diane Nim says elder abuse is not just one family's problem, it's the community's problem. And we have to take an active role in fighting it.
Letting people know they see anything suspicious, neighbors, family, anybody, report it. Because my feeling is if you see it, you report it, or don't report it, you're as guilty as allowing it to happen.
Next door to the home where Anthony Conturso and his mother once lived is 81-year-old Betty Allen. She's happy to be able to enjoy the beauty of her surroundings as she nestles into her golden years. She's seen the abuse of the elderly and says that dignity is all we can ask for when we begin to write the final chapters of our lives.
Just hope and pray that when you get that age, that don't happen to you. You know, got somebody to feed you and bathe you and take care of you.
The Elder Abuse Task Force is funded through the senior millage, which was approved by Genesee County voters. Diane Nim says to help prevent elder abuse, we have to be vigilant about checking in on our seniors. A tip from an MTA bus driver is what led investigators to Mrs. Conturso before her situation turned more tragic. In the studio, Dawn Jones, ABC 12 News.